Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. And apologize for my absence yesterday. I was on a mad mission to get my car fixed, and it is now fixed, and I am shortly on my way out the door, but I wanted to do a quick video for you today. The flooding in Mozambique has caused a lot of problems, and the problems are ongoing. This is from today. Cyclone Idai crisis deepens as first cases of cholera confirmed in Mozambique. 5 people tested positive for waterborne disease in the flooded port city of Beira. Amid warnings, outbreak will spread. The rescue efforts are still ongoing. The death toll is still rising. I'm not really going to read too deeply into that. Here's another article about Mozambique. The Mozambique floods cover more ground than New York City, Chicago, DC, and combined. Post-flood satellite images of Mozambique show that Cyclone Idai submerged about 835 square miles of homes and fields. Extremely unfortunate situation. People are absolutely getting hammered there, and there's no, obviously they don't have the infrastructure and the emergency services and all that kind of stuff to deal with that situation, and keeping an eye on that. This is climate change, my friends. This is, what they have been predicting for the last 30 years. What's going to happen, guys? This is what happens. You have insane megastorms, not just year after year. You have multiple megastorms every single year. This has been happening for the last 3 or 4 years. Climate change is here. It is upon us, and it is a threat multiplier, as the military likes to describe situations such as this. Moving on to an article from Grist. Actually, I'm going to save this. I'm going to read a new installation of Way Past What the Fuck, and then I'm going to come back to this article and finish up the video with that. So this is a new article from Friday, March 22nd, titled Avengers Infinity War. The Avengers and their allies must be willing to sacrifice all in an attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. That's a synopsis of the movie. I really like this movie, not only because it is a good movie, but because of the philosophical question it brought up. If you ask someone who has seen it who the bad guy is, they will respond with Thanos. Thanos is the monster. Thanos is the guy who wants to end life as we know it. But is he really the bad guy? About halfway through the film, he explains why he is doing what he is doing. He has watched as his planet and others like it were devastated by prosperity. He has watched while wealth and privilege overshot the ability of the planet to support the population. His own planet was reduced to a smoldering ruin. If you remember, y'all, when this movie came out, I talked about exactly the same thing. The Avengers and their friends, on the other hand, are fighting to maintain the status quo. They will do anything to stop Thanos from putting his plan into action. The quote at the beginning of this article is from the movie description on IMDb. What becomes clear is that Thanos is willing to sacrifice even his own daughter, who he loves, in order to bring the universe back to sanity. Overpopulation, overuse, excessive consumption, and complete disregard for the natural world is what drives him to this end. Does that sound familiar? Thanos is willing to do what it takes to restore balance. The Avengers are willing to do what it takes to maintain the ruinous path that made drastic measures necessary in the first place. The Avengers and their friends are likable, and Thanos is not. We view anyone who supports our view of how things should be as likable. no matter how monstrous they may be, and anyone who contradicts those views is a monster, no matter how right they may be. There are monsters in charge now, monsters who would destroy everything, including all life on Earth, in service to their ends. Anyone who suggests that the problem is too many of us, or that we need to reduce our impact, is dismissed as a crackpot or a danger to our way of life, quote unquote. The monsters who rule are more like the Avengers, and the people who would disrupt business as usual are considered evil. Our perception is that we are right and everyone else is wrong. We believed at one time in the concept of manifest destiny, and which was a widely held belief in the United States that its settlers were destined to expand across North America. This allowed for an invasive species, in this case Europeans, to wreak havoc on the native population and landscape in the service of their needs and desires. It resulted in the devastation of an entire continent, continues to this day as we mow down anything and everything that would stand in the way of advancing our ruinous lifestyle. When I was younger, there were untouched fields and woods that we could play in. As the Santa Clara Valley grew in popularity, those fields and woods were plowed under, and this was viewed favorably by the populace as progress. My friends and I viewed it as the destruction of a beautiful and endlessly fascinating place to explore and play. The valley is now almost completely paved over. All the wetlands and woods and fields and creeks are gone. There are no more wild places that are not overrun by humans and their dwellings and their cars and their freeways. The world that was in the one Thanos, wants to save, in the desecrated wasteland that our world has become, is the world that the Avengers want to defend. There's no hope for us. The Avengers have won and business as usual goes on. I cannot help but wish that we had a Thanos, someone who was willing to make a hard choice and execute it, someone who realized that we are taking all life down with us, someone who realized that we are not all that special, someone who realized that all life, not just human life, has an important and valued place in the biosphere. We will not get our reprieve. There is no Thanos. There is no one who will stand up to the evil that permeates our civilization. There is only us. We can make hard choices. We can begin to dismantle industrial civilization. We can do this, if not for a future, then for the sake of our souls. Really good stuff, once again, by Michael Campy from way past What the Fuck. Excellent points all around, and this is exactly what I talked about when I saw that movie in the theater, and super interesting that they made, basically climate change and environmental destruction a part of the movie, a part of the message, and basically painted people, environmentalists or people who wanted to solve this problem or stop this problem, they wrapped them all up as Thanos, as the evil guy, as the evil doer. And then they made the question of overpopulation, or the answer to overpopulation, a maniacal, we're going to kill half the people. Like, that's how, anybody who brings up overpopulation, the knee-jerk response is like, oh, are you are you going to practice euthanasia? Are eugenicists? Are you for killing a lot of people? Is that what you're going to do? Like, that's not what people who have the concern over overpopulation are rightly concerned. They have a legitimate concern about this. It is a legitimate problem, and the legitimate answer is not, well, we're going to have to kill a bunch of people. The problem is that if you don't take this problem on head on, if you don't address this problem as the problem that it is, guess what happens? A bunch of people die. So, like, the evil is in not questioning the problem or addressing the problem. The evil is in let's sweep it under the rug. Let's not talk about it. Let's call everybody who wants to talk about this a eugenicist. Those are the evil ones. You are an evil one. If that is your, if you're like, no, there's no problem. No, we can keep doing this. No, we can continue to go on this like this forever. You are the evil person because you are sentencing millions and billions of people to death and your children to death. That's what you're doing by saying, like, we can't talk about this, or we can't address this, or we can't go down this road. And so I'm going to bring up another article. One moment, please. This is exactly what is being done to AOC right now, who is, you know, championing the Green New Deal, and she went off on Republican lawmakers. You know, just people are mocking her. People are mocking the Green New Deal. People are like, "Oh my God, you're crazy!" And no, actually, strike that, reverse that. You're crazy. You're insane, psychopathic lunatics who think you know what is right and you have no idea, because you're absolutely out of your goddamn minds. And you have a, you know, somebody who is at least close to, way, way closer to the truth, and who is absolutely, totally, and completely sane, trying to stand up, you know, in the middle of a room filled with insane people and say, come on, guys, let's not do this. So she went off on, you know, there's a video rolling around. I'll try and link that video too, of her, you know, going off on the Republicans and off on lawmakers about, you know, what it means to support the Green New Deal, et cetera. She torched congressional Republicans for climate denialism and inaction, as vast swaths of the Midwest are drowning, and children in Flint, Michigan are suffering lifelong brain damage from polluted water, et cetera, right? She's like, hey guys, these are actual problems. Oh, and they tried to paint it as an elitist problem. Republican Representative Sean Duffy said in a hearing at the House Financial Services Committee that, I think it's rich that we talk about how we care about the poor, but all the while we'll sign on to bills that dramatically increase the cost of a family to get into a home. So they're saying that the cost, it's cost too much to do this. Yeah, not if you help people out, not if you take the money away from the military and away from the corporations who get all the tax breaks, and actually tax them and get the money, and you give it to help people who need help. That's what you do. It's very simple equation that they're making complicated in order to distract you. Anyways, I'll link this article and I'll link that video below. And lastly, I want to talk about this article from Grist, and it gets right to the point and is right on the money. Fed official says climate change is an international market failure. And this is the future that we have to look forward to, because we have not addressed climate change over the last 30 years, because we have not addressed the forces of the industrial civilization and capitalism on the environment. And this is what will happen to us because of this. Climate change was already worrying enough. This is from Eric Holthaus on March 26th. Climate change was already worrying enough. Now a report from the U.S. Central Bank cautions that rising temperatures and extreme storms could eventually trigger a financial collapse. Do you think so? A Federal Reserve researcher warned in a report on Monday that climate-based risk could threaten the stability of the financial system as a whole. But possible fixes in using the Fed's buying power to green the economy are currently against the law. Well, I did not have any idea that they were actually against the law. I just didn't know that they were actually, you know, they weren't signed into law, so they couldn't be done. Glenn Rudbush, the San Francisco Fed's executive vice president for research, ranks climate change as one of the three key forces transforming the economy, along with an aging population and rapid advances in technology. Climate change could soon hit the banking system by storms, droughts, wildfires, and other extreme events, making it harder for businesses to repay loans. Rudbush warns that crops in inundated cities have already started to hurt the economy. Economists view these losses as the result of a fundamental market failure. Carbon fuel prices do not properly account for climate change costs. He writes, businesses and households that produce greenhouse gas emissions say, by driving cars or generating electricity, do not pay for the losses and damage caused by that pollution. A hefty carbon tax alone wouldn't be enough to fix the problem, what he calls an intergenerational and international market failure. The man is speaking the truth. I wonder how long he's going to have a job. Since Congress has yet to take sufficient action, Bush says that the Fed could, in theory, take matters into its own hands by encouraging a shift away from fossil fuels. The problem is the Fed's only official job is to keep inflation tame and unemployment low. And all of those things won't matter once climate change starts to rear its monstrous head, and its tools are limited to buying and selling government debt to tweak interest rates. That means it can't help companies make a shift to a low carbon economy by, for instance, lending them money in the bond market. By contrast, the European Central Bank has been buying green bonds since 2016. Well, bully for you, European Central Bank. An ECB research note last July found that those purchases have helped boost the market for these kind of investments, helping spur environmental improvements. Along with a report last week from the insurance industry saying that climate change could eventually make insurance unaffordable for most people. Bush's report is part of a growing body of evidence. I'm going to read that again, a growing body of evidence that climate change poses an existential threat to the world economy as it currently exists. Last month, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell told legislators that asking why the Fed doesn't currently consider the risks of climate change was a fair question, quote unquote. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.